Taima Titanium or cast iron. One heats up fast and reacts instantly. The other holds heat like a brick oven. So which pan actually fits the way you cook? Both of these pans can cook amazing food, but they feel completely different once you start using them. From the way they handle heat to how they clean up afterward, the overall cooking experience feels very different with each one. So let's start with cast iron. Now, cast iron is all about heat retention. The pan itself is thick and heavy, so it takes longer to fully heat up. But once it gets hot, it holds that heat really well. And that's exactly why it's great for things like steaks, burgers, or anything where you want a deep crust and a steady heat. But that heavy construction also changes the overall cooking experience. The pan feels solid in the hand, reacts more slowly when you adjust the heat, and usually takes a little more patience while cooking. Preheating can take 5 to 10 minutes, but it's important if you want to avoid sticking. Now let's take a look at Taima Titanium. It looks modern, feels much lighter in the hand, and it's easier to move around while cooking. Instead of relying on a heavy mass to hold the heat, Taima uses a 5-layer design built around faster, more responsive cooking. You're basically cooking on a pure titanium surface, so there's no coating to wear down over time and no seasoning routine to maintain. Now, it does need a little preheating like cast iron and a little bit of oil and butter, but it only takes a minute or two to activate the natural non-stick performance. The heat spreads quickly and evenly, so when you adjust the heat, the pan reacts fast, which gives you a little bit more control during cooking. And because it has a stainless steel exterior, the pan is strong and durable, and it works with every stovetop, including induction. Now let's start cooking with both pans to see how they perform and how they clean afterwards. First up, cooking eggs. With cast iron, once the pan is properly preheated and well seasoned, eggs can cook really nicely. But if the pan gets too hot, the eggs grab the surface pretty quickly. And if the seasoning isn't built up yet, sticking becomes part of the experience too. Now with Taima Titanium, you still need to preheat the pan for a minute or two over medium heat and add a little oil or butter before dropping the egg in. But you don't have to worry about maintaining seasoning. And once the pan's ready, the egg slides around easily without relying on any coating. So both pans can cook great eggs, they just get there differently. Next up, searing steak. Cast iron is famous for steak because of the way it holds heat. Once the pan's fully heated, it stays hot even after the steak hits the surface, which helps build that deep crust people love from cast iron cooking. And because the heat stays so stable, it works especially well for thicker cuts of meat and longer sears. With Taima Titanium, the searing experience feels a bit faster and more responsive. The aluminum core spreads the heat evenly, and when you adjust the flame, the pan reacts much quicker than cast iron. So it feels easier to control during the cooking while still giving you the solid browning and crust development. Now let's talk about heat control. With cast iron, once the pan gets hot, it holds that heat for a long time. Now, that's great for steady cooking, but it also means the pan reacts slowly when you change the heat. So if things start getting too hot, it usually takes a while for the pan to cool back down. Taima Titanium, however, reacts much faster. Lower the flame, and the pan adjusts pretty quickly, which makes it feel easier to control while cooking. So cast iron feels more stable, while Taima Titanium feels faster and more responsive. Now let's take a look at cleanup and maintenance. The best way to clean cast iron is right after using it. If the pan cools down too much, food can stick more to the surface, but you also don't want to run a very hot pan under cold water because sudden temperature changes can stress the metal over time. So you want to hit a sweet spot. Warm water, coarse salt, and a soft scrubber usually work well for removing stuck food without stripping the seasoning. After washing it, you want to dry the pan completely to help prevent rust and add a thin layer of oil to maintain the seasoning. With Taima Titanium, cleanup feels more straightforward. Since there's no coating and no seasoning layer to maintain, warm water, soap, and a soft sponge are usually enough to clean the pan. And because the titanium surface is so durable, you can scrub it a bit more aggressively if there's food sticking, without worrying about damaging the pan. So which one's better for you, cast iron or Taima Titanium? If you like steady heat, traditional searing, and you don't mind a little extra maintenance, cast iron does an amazing job. But if you want a lighter pan that heats evenly, reacts faster, and feels easier to use on a daily basis, Taima Titanium is probably the better fit. So it really comes down to how you like to cook. Head over to taimatitanium.com to get a pan that makes cooking and cleaning faster and easier every day. Which pan feels more like your cooking style, cast iron or titanium? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more cookware comparisons and tips on choosing the best fit for you.